At 4:12 p.m. on a Wednesday that smelled like rain and pine sol, my phone lit up with Savannah's name. I could see my reflection in the black glass, silver streak in my twist-out, reading glasses slipping down my nose, receipt box beside me like a small safe. I picked up anyway. "You do nothing," she said, voice sweet as cough syrup. "Watch my kids while I travel." Something steady stood up inside me. "Savannah, I'm 62, not a rocking chair." She laughed. "Ruth, please, you're retired. Be useful." After we hung up, I stood there listening to the house breathe, the tick of the stove clock, the hum of the old Frigidaire, the creak that happens when the AC kicks in. I set a kettle on. At my age, I don't shout, I document. Subscribe to our channel. This helps our work reach more people. The doorbell rang at 6:45 the next morning. 3 kids tumbled in. Micah, 11, glued to a phone. Nia, 9, clutching a pink journal. And baby Eli, 6, asking for Wi-Fi. Savannah didn't cross the threshold. She never does. I'll be back in 2 weeks, June 28th, noon. Don't feed them junk, and don't start with your old-fashioned rules. Where exactly is this training? She checked her lashes in her camera. Out of state, confidential. Marcus wasn't with her. He was on second shift at the warehouse, breaking his back so his children could have tennis lessons and branded backpacks they never put on their shoulders. Savannah tossed her caramel tote into my dining chair, then paused, lips tight. "You know, don't embarrass us at church Sunday." "Smile for the picture." "The Father's Day picture?" I asked. She smirked. "Assuming you have someone to celebrate." After her SUV purred away, the house felt bigger and smaller at once. Eli had already found my cookie tin. Naya hovered near the bookshelf. Micah scowled at the router like it owed him money. "No Wi-Fi until chores," I said. Calm, firm. The boy rolled his eyes so hard I thought they might keep going. I reached for the tote to move it to the entry table, and the strap caught on the chair finial. The bag dropped, the lining gaped open, and I saw it. A tiny zippered pocket I didn't know most totes had. Inside, a slim black phone, no case, and an envelope. Bank of America. A blue rubber stamp bled through the flap like a bruise. I slid the receipt out with 2 fingers. The paper had weight, the kind of weight numbers have when they mean something ugly. The stamp read $85,000, cash. The name beneath it didn't say Savannah Pierce Carter, it said R.A. Lang. Eli giggled from the kitchen, powdered sugar on his lips. "Grandma, you got secrets?" he chirped. "Baby, I keep receipts," I said, and tucked the envelope under my sweater as the kettle screamed. If stories like this help you breathe, tap like and subscribe. I'm Ruth, and I document. Nia's pink journal fell open when she reached for a napkin. A Polaroid slid out. Savannah on a balcony, ocean behind her, gold sunset caught in her hair. The caption scrawled in glitter gel, "Training, Miami. Training has ocean views now?" I checked the stove clock, 7:02 a.m. 13 days and 22 hours until noon, June 28th. My house, my rules, my proof. I folded the bank slip once, twice, and felt my hands go cold. The stamp said $85,000, cash. But why was his name on that receipt? Savannah texted at 8:10 a.m. "Send a pic of breakfast for the group chat. Make it look presentable." The ellipses were a slap. I replied, "No pictures. Kids are fine." Micah barked a laugh. "She's gonna flip." "She can spin," I said, plating eggs and sliced peaches. "Flipping is my job. Pancakes after chores." At 9, the church's WhatsApp buzzed. Sister Belinda posted the Father's Day program, group photo at 11:30 a.m. this Sunday. Savannah added a row of hearts and tagged Marcus. I could already feel the performance brewing. Her smile bright as a blade. My son small at her elbow. I set a timer on the counter. 14 days. The old yellowed kind with a tick you can hear in your teeth. "We'll call this a kindness clock," I told the children. "It runs out June 28th at noon. Until then, we earn things around here. Screen time, sweets, even secrets." "Secrets?" Nia asked, pupils like coins. "Especially secrets." I looked at the tote on the chair, then at Micah's thumbs dancing over a locked phone. Dishes, beds, shoes in the basket by the door. We work, we eat, we play. That's family math. Eli puffed his cheeks. At Mommy's we DoorDash. At Grandma's we defrost and season, I said. Elbow grease is free. At 10:22, Marcus called, voice gravelly. Ma, thank you. Sav said you offered. I didn't offer. I accepted a challenge. Marcus, how many cards y'all carrying? He went quiet. 2, maybe 3. Whose name? Mine. Shame is a sound. You can hear it in a son. I didn't say the thing that wanted to claw out of my throat. She is drowning you and calling it a cruise. I said, come by tonight. We need to talk about paperwork. After lunch, while Eli napped and Nia drew little suns in the margins of her journal, Micah prowled the hall. What's the Wi-Fi? It's called Earned It 2G, I said, and slid the router's power strip behind the bookshelf. Passwords after dinner. You petty. At 62, it's called boundaries. When I carried Savannah's tote to the bedroom to keep temptation and little hands apart, the hidden phone buzzed. A preview blazed on the black screen. Unknown number, Miami area code, a message that smelled like cologne and gasoline. Ray, Flight 320. Don't forget, Phase 4. A photo followed. 2 rocks glass tumblers sweating on a balcony rail. Not training. Toasting. I didn't unlock it. I didn't have to. At my age, restraint is a form of wealth. I laid the bank receipt beside my box of paper lives, Marcus's honor roll program from '04, the property tax bill I pay early on principal, the last letter my mother wrote me, slanted and stern. On a yellow sticky note I wrote, R.A. Lang, underlined it. Hand shook just a little. At 5:40 p.m., the doorbell cam across the street dinged. Deja's. She texted, You good, Miss Ruth? Saw the kids. If you need anything, holler. I sent a thumbs up and a slice of peach pie across the fence. Neighbors are the first line of defense and the last. Marcus arrived at 7:18, uniform smelling like warm metal. He hugged me one-armed, eyes on his shoes. Sav's got a schedule for Sunday, he said. Matching outfits. She wants you in the back row for the photo. Says it's cleaner for the frame. I let the words sit between us like a dead fish. Cleaner. Marcus, I said, laying the receipt on the table, the blue stamp facing him. Tell me who R.A. Lang is. He blinked. Once, twice, then looked at the hidden phone I placed beside it, screen lighting with another Miami text. His mouth opened and didn't find words. If you bring those kids into that church on Sunday to polish her story, I said softly, I will open my envelope and let the air do the rest. He stared at the stamp, then at me, and the clock on the counter ticked louder than the room. Ma, he whispered, why is Ray's name on your daughter-in-law's cash receipt? I slept like a woman listening for a fire that hadn't started yet. At 5:12 a.m., I gave up pretending and put coffee on. Community dark roast, 2 scoops, a cinnamon stick for courage. The house was quiet, but my chest wasn't. It was humming with a memory I try not to invite, the one that still smells like nutmeg and humiliation. Christmas 2016. I had basted a 20-pound bird since dawn, slipped orange peel under the skin so it would shine like lacquer. Marcus loved my dressing. Cornbread, celery, turkey neck stock. Said it tasted like the house he grew up in. I carried the pan into their new place in College Park, oven mitts on, apron still dusted with flour, and Savannah blocked the doorway with a smile that never reached her eyes. Oh, Ruth, she trilled. We did a whole 30 December. No grease, no old-fashioned stuff. She leaned toward the aluminum pan as if it might jump. We'll just put this away. I watched her take 2 fingers and flip the foil back like she was inspecting a wound. Then she slid that bird, my hours, my pride, my mother's quiet lessons, into the trash like it was a receipt she didn't need. Don't be upset, she said, patting air. We ordered salmon bowls. Marcus stood behind her holding a compostable fork, helpless as a boy. Micah was a baby on her hip. The whole scene was a magic trick. Now you see love, now you don't. I drove home with both hands at 10 and 2 and promised myself 2 things. Never again would I bring my best to a house that treated it like waste. And if Savannah ever laid a finger on what was mine, she would meet the part of me that doesn't bake. It builds. The kettle whistled me back to June 13th. Naya padded in, curls a storm cloud, clutching that pink journal like it could float her. "Grandma," she whispered, "Mom says you don't like Father's Day." "Baby, I love any day my son is still here to eat," I said. "What I don't like is pretending." Micah came in loud, angling for the router. Eli came in sticky, angling for sugar. I handed out toast and tasks. At 9:30, the kindness clock ticked like a metronome while I opened my bill folder. Light, gas, property tax paid through December. A copy of my will I'd updated after Richard died in 97. My name, Ruth Elaine Carter, on the deed. Paid in full, 2003. Assessed last spring at $218,000. My house, my roof, my rules. I thought about Savannah's laugh when she said, "Be useful." About the envelope stamped $85,000, cash with R.A. Lang. About Marcus's flinch when he saw the name Ray. A man I'd never met somehow writing his initials across my piece. At noon, I wiped the counter like I was polishing resolve. The church group chat pinged, reminder about Sunday's photo. Savannah posted a mood board, khaki and cream. No bold prints. A little pin that read, "You perfect family." I took a photo of her post and slid it into a folder on my phone called Receipts, June. My thumb hovered over the tote on the chair. The old wound throbbed like a storm in my hands and told me the same thing it told me in 2016. Stop feeding lies. I unzipped the tote, slow as prayer, and felt something hard under the lining that wasn't a phone, a wallet, or a compact. When it came free, the light caught a tiny brass key stamped with 4 numbers I knew too well, my own zip code, followed by a unit code I didn't. Why did Savannah's secret key open a storage unit in my neighborhood? By the time the children finished lunch, I had a sandwich bag full of questions, a brass key, a bank receipt with a stranger's initials, and a phone that breathed like a hot coal in my palm. I wrapped the key in a paper towel and labeled it with a date, the way you label leftovers you can't afford to waste. June 13th, 11:58 a.m. Key from tote. I slid it under the flour canister. "Grandma, are we baking?" Nia asked. "We're proofing," I said. Different process, same patience. At 2:07 p.m., Deja texted again. "Miss Ruth, you need my ring cam footage from last Thursday?" Ray from nowhere spent the night across the street again. Man ain't family. She punctuated it with an eye emoji that could light a room. I pressed the phone to my ear, felt my pulse in the plastic. "You got time for pie and the truth, Deja?" "Always," she said. Deja arrived at 2:32, wearing scrubs and the authority that comes from seeing folks at their worst and choosing them anyway. She set her tablet on my table and pulled up the footage. June 6th, 11:48 p.m. Savannah's SUV nosed into their driveway across the street. A tall man with a gym bag, dark cap, clean sneakers, stepped out and used their keypad like it was his. 12:11 a.m. He came back out for a smoke, looked dead at the camera, and turned so the porch light framed his jawline. Deja paused, then tapped a still. I ran it through my cousin's little app. The necklace spells Ray. Cheap block letters. R.A. Lang, I murmured, the letters striking the blue stamp in my head like flint. Uncle Ray. "Girl," Deja said softly, "I wish this was TV, but it's your front yard." I copied the clips onto a thumb drive from my desk, the red one Marcus bought me when Eli started kindergarten. I labeled it in black marker, Doorbell Jun 6 Uncle Ray. Evidence N3, cataloged like my mother taught me to fold sheets, corners crisp, seams aligned. Micah drifted to the doorway, trying to look uninterested. "Who's that?" "A man who doesn't belong to us," I said. "Go rinse the watermelon." At 3:55, the hidden phone in Savannah's tote lit up again. I didn't unlock it. I watched the banner, like you watch a dog you don't trust near a toddler. Ray, Phase 4 at Father's Day. Don't chicken out. 3-dot bubble. Another text. Ray, did you get cash from the old bird? That house has equity. I felt the heat rise behind my ears. The place fury lives in women who have learned not to waste it. I set the phone face down and pulled the bank slip out again. The address line below the blue stamp showed a branch on Peachtree Street. In the memo line, the teller had scrawled a transaction note. Safe deposit box. Lang. The ink had bled like the truth trying to escape. At 5:06, Marcus called. "Ma, I'm outside." He came in with his shoulders pinched and sat where he always sits, the chair where Richard used to tie watches to make the links fit right. "Look at me," I said, laying the key, the receipt, and Deja's drive in a row like dominoes. "Say his full name." Marcus rubbed his knuckles like a boy rubbing coins he can't spend. "Raymond Allen Lang, Ray. He sells investment packages. Sav says he's a mentor." "Mentors don't sleep in married people's beds," I said, "and they don't coach you to steal from your mother." He flinched like I'd struck him. But it wasn't me. It was the truth. He breathed, in and out, like a man trying to stand up underwater. "She asked me to sign something last month. Said it was a refinance to unlock your equity for emergency funds. I wouldn't. I swear I wouldn't." I slid my deed across the table. "My signature isn't on anything new. Yet." He swallowed. "Ma, what's phase 4? The phone buzzed again like it had been listening and didn't care who knew. I flipped it over, and for once, the banner wasn't from Ray. It was from Savannah to Marcus, screen share preview lighting the room. A calendar block over Sunday, June 23rd, 11:30 a.m., captioned, "Church photo, perfect family, announce Miami opportunity, make Ruth look unstable if needed." Marcus's chair scraped tile. "She's going to use Father's Day to make a scene and set a trap," I finished for him, picking up the brass key the way I'd pick up a pen to sign my name where it matters. If the unit this key opens is what I think it is, then whatever Savannah didn't want us to see is sitting 3 blocks from my front porch right now. The next morning I took my coffee, black, Bible closed, pen open. Numbers don't lie, and when they do, they leave fingerprints. By 8:10 a.m. I was on hold with the bank, the brass key warm in my pocket like a live thing. The branch on Peachtree confirmed what the blue stamp already bragged. $85,000. Cash withdrawn on June 10th, teller ID or 6142, transaction note, safe deposit. Lang. "Ma'am, I can't disclose box contents," the woman said. "You just did," I replied, and hung up. Micah clattered dishes. Nia lined up crayons by Spectrum. Eli hummed "This Little Light of Mine" without knowing he was praying for us. I pulled my credit reports and Marcus's. He'd given me the login after the foreclosure scare 2 years ago. There it was, red like a burn. 3 cards in Marcus's name, $32,900 total, Meridian Gold $12,300, Harborline Platinum $9,800, Vaxa Rewards $10,800, last charges June 9-11, all in travel, luxury retail, dining. Miami zip codes. My stomach did a slow turn like a big ship taking on water. At 10:43, an email pinged from our church administrator. "Sister Ruth, Savannah volunteered you to arrange the Father's Day refreshment table. Budget, $0, donations." I typed "declined" and didn't send it. I saved it in the Receipts Gone June folder. Never fight a liar with your throat when paper can fight for you. I called Marcus. "How much y'all got left in savings?" A breath. 41,000 last I checked. Check again. Keys clicked through the receiver. Silence expanded. It's $1,200, Ma. She said she moved it to a high-yield opportunity. High-yield my back porch, I said. Heat rose, steady and dangerous. Marcus, she is ghosting your future with a Sharpie. He exhaled like a car losing a tire. What do I do? You show up tonight. You look at paper with your eyes open. At 1:05 p.m., I took the brass key to the storage facility off Campbellton, 3 blocks from my porch. Unit D17. The manager, a man with a Braves cap and a tired kindness, squinted at my license. "You're not on the lease." "I'm on the zip code," I said. "Something in there belongs to my piece." He couldn't break rules. I didn't ask him to. I stood in the corridor long enough to memorize the roll-up door's scratches, like hash marks counting down to a day I didn't pick. I left with nothing in my hands and everything in my head. By 4:50, Deja texted another clip. June 12th, 7:13 p.m., Savannah backing her SUV to their garage and unloading shopping bags, a white box with a florist's brand I know is not cheap. Training wears roses now, apparently. I saved it to the red thumb drive and wrote, "Doorbell, Jun 12 bags" along the edge. At dinner, the kids tested fences. "Mom says routines are oppressive," Micah muttered. "Then let me oppress you into a future," I said, and passed the peas. At 7:22, Marcus walked in with a folder and a face. We spread statements, dates, and debts like a crime scene. "Ma," he whispered, tracing the blue stamp with a calloused finger. "If she put a lien on your house, then we find the paper and set it on fire with the law," I said. "But first, we catch it breathing." The kindness clock ticked toward Sunday. I could feel Savannah's performance sharpening like a knife on a stone. I cleared the table, slid the red drive into an envelope, and wrote, "For Father's Day, if necessary." When I turned out the kitchen light, the hidden phone buzzed one more time in the tote. A preview line ran across like a dare. "Ray, you ready to make the old woman look unstable in front of her church? What exactly does she plan to pull at 11:30 a.m. in that church hall?" Father's Day arrived smelling like coffee and cologne. Marcus ironed a cream shirt at my dining table like he could press his spine straight. The children looked like catalogs, khaki, bows, tight smiles. I wore navy because cream is for women who don't wipe noses and clean up juice. The kindness clock read June 23rd, 10:54 a.m. The church group chat bloomed with emojis and verses. Savannah posted a boomerang of her lip gloss. Blessed. In the fellowship hall, Sister Belinda's sheet cakes sweated under plastic. The photo backdrop was a rented arch wrapped in eucalyptus and silk roses. I saw the money they didn't have everywhere I looked. Savannah floated in right before the call to pose. She never arrives early unless a spotlight needs catching. "Ruth," she sang, arms open, perfume loud. "Back row, left, no bold colors." "I am the color I brought," I said. Marcus shifted, eyes flicking between us like a man trying to break up a thunderstorm with a lawn chair. "Sav, let's just—" "Smile," she cut in, teeth on display. "We're a family." The photographer raised his camera. 3, 2... Savannah reached out and gently, so the room wouldn't see, pinched the soft skin of Nia's upper arm. Nia gasped. The flash popped. Savannah's smile never moved. Rage flashed white behind my eyes and then cooled into something surgical. After the photo, she took the floor like she owned the deed. "Family," she began, voice silk. "Today, I want to honor Marcus, the most hard-working father, and also share big news." Murmurs rose. She loved a captive audience like she loved a discount code. "We've been offered a life-changing opportunity in Miami," she trilled. "Training, community, elevation." She let the word hang like a chandelier. "We'll be relocating soon. And it breaks my heart," hand to chest. "But the children won't be staying overnight with certain relatives anymore until we can ensure emotional stability." Heads turned like sunflowers. Certain relatives. Emotional stability. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. Sister Belinda's mouth made a small O. Pastor's wife, Clarice, put a polite hand over her pearls. The hum in the room shifted from cake to scandal in a single breath. Marcus cleared his throat. "Sav." She laid a hand on his forearm and angled her body so the room saw tenderness and I saw a vice. "Babe, let me finish." Then, the soft dagger. "Ruth, we love you." But the children came home, dysregulated. There were raised voices, a messy environment. Deja coughed loud enough to be language from the back. My hand found the envelope in my purse by muscle memory. "Calm, Ruth." At my age, I don't shout. I set exhibits. "Since we're being transparent," I said, voice low but carrying, "perhaps we could all look at a few dates." Savannah's lashes blinked a warning at me. "Ruth, let's not—" I stepped to the refreshment table and set down 3 things: the red thumb drive, a printed screenshot of Ray's text, Phase 4 at Father's Day, don't chicken out, and the blue stamped bank slip $85,000. Cash over R.A. Lang. The room stilled. Even the babies went quiet like God had put his hand on the nursery door. Marcus stared at the slip as if it were a snake. Sav, who is Ray? She laughed, a brittle, pretty sound. This is harassment. Doesn't the Bible say? It says let your yes be yes, I replied, and your training not be Miami Beach at sunset. Deja raised her phone, already mirroring the drive's files onto the fellowship hall projector she'd somehow charmed the deacon to switch on. The screen blinked and then filled with the doorbell footage. June 6th, 11:48 p.m. Uncle Ray, letting himself in at my son's house, turning to the camera with his necklace spelling his name like a confession. A piano bench scraped. Someone whispered, Lord. Savannah's smile slid a half-inch, then locked back in place. Photos can be edited, she said, voice sugared. We're all. The hidden phone buzzed inside her tote on my shoulder, and every woman in the room looked toward the sound, like a flock hearing the same hawk. I lifted the bag just enough for the screen to glow through the canvas. Ray, you said you'd make the old one look crazy today. Savannah lunged for the tote, fast enough to show us what she thought belonged to her, slow enough for me to slide the bag behind the sheet cake with one hand while I held the blue-stamped slip with the other. Touch me again, I said softly, and we'll add assault to the program. She looked over my shoulder then, past me to the far door, measuring exits, calculating witnesses. Marcus's jaw worked like a man chewing gravel. The pastor's wife folded her arms. The room leaned forward. If she calls my name, I will lay the final audio on this table and let the whole church hear Phase 4 in Savannah's own voice. The fellowship hall broke apart the way storms do. First a hush, then a scatter. Sister Belinda found sudden business with her sheet cakes. Clarice wheeled the projector cart back with the tight smile of a woman preserving order. Savannah smoothed her dress as if she could iron the air. Marcus looked at me like a man at the edge of a dock, toes over water. Enough, Savannah said brightly. Too bright. We don't air private matters in God's house. She slid her hand into the crook of Marcus's elbow and turned her face up to him. A choreography I've seen a dozen times. Babe, please, let's not make Mama feel embarrassed. The word Mama was a lace doily hiding a blade. She pivoted to the room. Y'all know how elders get overwhelmed. We'll handle it. Laughter, the wrong kind, tittered at the edges. Doubt is contagious. She coughed it into the air like perfume. My envelope sat on the table, heavy with daylight. I could have opened the final audio, played Phase 4 in her voice. But something in me said not yet. Not with my grandchildren tracing the edges of the crowd like deer. Micah tugged my sleeve. Grandma, can we go home? Naya rubbed the place Savannah had pinched, eyes shining. Eli reached for sheet cake the way small boys reach for rescue. I gathered the flock. At the door, Pastor caught my arm, voice low. Sister Ruth, you want mediation? Not today, I said. Today I want safety. Back at my house by 1:42 p.m., the children moved like ghosts, quiet, obedient, brittle. Micah helped Eli take off his stiff loafers. Nia sat at the table and traced circles in condensation on her water glass. The kindness clock ticked toward the 28th, steady, indifferent. At 2:10, Marcus knocked, hat in hand, as if my threshold were a judge's bench. He stood, then sat, then stood again. Ma, I'm sorry. He stared at the floor. Sav says if I side with you, she'll file an emergency motion, say the kids aren't safe here. She rehearsed that line, I said. It fits her mouth too easy. He flinched. What if she wins? Judges listen to mothers. They listen to evidence, I said, tapping the red drive. But the law moves slower than a liar. His phone lit. Savannah. Dinner at 6. Bring the kids. No Ruth. Then, we're discussing Miami timeline. His thumb hovered. If I don't go, she'll say I denied access. If I do, she'll spin it. Then don't go alone, I said. Deja can sit in the car, turn her cam on, park under the streetlight. He nodded, a small soldiering up. Ma, I. His voice cracked, and I saw my 8-year-old again, shoes patched, knuckles scabbed. How did I let it get this far? Abusers braid love and threat, I said. You think you're holding on to rope. Turns out it's a leash. At 5:38 p.m., he texted from their street. Here, Deja's across from me. If I don't respond, call 911. My chest tightened. I set out plates like he might walk back in, hungry and 40 pounds lighter. 6:12, 6:29, 6:51. Silence stretched until it hummed. At 7:04, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Nia holding her pink journal like a passport, Micah stiff as a warning, Eli with chocolate on his upper lip. Behind them, Marcus's face was a wall. Savannah stood on the sidewalk, phone raised, recording. She's unstable, Savannah called, voice sweet for the camera. Children, say you want to come home with Mommy. Micah didn't move. Nia's throat bobbed. Eli reached for my hand. Marcus, Savannah purred. Are you letting your mother kidnap our children on Father's Day? Neighbor's curtains stirred. Deja's dome light blinked on. I felt the old reflex to fold, to save the scene by sacrificing myself. I swallowed it like a bad pill. Children, I said, keeping my voice even. Go inside. They did. Marcus stepped back, torn. Savannah smiled with all her teeth. There, she said to her camera. Evidence. She pivoted, sing-song. Ruth, you just proved my phase 4. And for the first time since this started, I felt the ground tilt under me as if the storm had my name in its mouth. Until Deja's text flashed up like a flare. Check your porch cam. Listen to the minute before she rang. Why did Savannah say phase 4 on my sidewalk if she thought no one could hear her? The porch camera on my eave has been there since the summer copperheads tried my front steps. It listens better than most people. I scrubbed back the timeline on my phone with a fingernail and let the footage roll. 6:59 p.m. Savannah's SUV idles. Door opens. She steps out, leans into the passenger seat where someone, Ray, you could set a watch by his swagger, sits with a cap pulled low. She turns, unaware of the angle, voice clear as glass in a bowl. Have you been through something similar? Tell us your story in the comments below. We read every comment. It's important for us to know we're not alone. Phase 4, she says, checking her lipstick in her phone. Make Ruth look unwell. Get kids on camera concerned. Force Marcus to choose. File emergency order tonight. Judge duty dockets light on Sundays. Timing is everything, babe. Ray's voice lazy and bored. Get something about the old house being unsafe. Mold, whatever. Did you get the cash? Savannah. 85 grand's in the box. Monday we open the unit. Ship to Miami. Marcus won't even know what he lost. She shuts the door, pastes on a smile, and rings my bell. The hair on my arms lifted. The camera had her whole little opera in its throat. I forwarded the clip to 3 places. My email, Deja's, and a new thread labeled Adi Martinez. His card sat under a magnet shaped like a peach. I typed a note. Emergency TRO, audio attached. Then I tucked my phone in my pocket, because some war you fight with paper and some with posture. Savannah was still on the sidewalk, narrating. She's refusing access, y'all. The children are frightened. The children were in my kitchen eating grapes and asking if we could light the citronella. I stepped onto the porch, holding nothing but my own spine. Savannah, I said, this is your last chance to leave without witnesses. She turned her camera to me. See? Threatening. Aggressive. Deja, I called without looking away. You mind walking over? Deja crossed the street in scrub pants and quiet authority. She didn't look at Savannah. She looked at Marcus. You good? He nodded, barely. The porch cam caught the tremor. Savannah's smile tightened. Ruth is manipulating the neighbors to harass me. Deja flipped open a small clipboard I hadn't seen before, the kind nurses use to break news and take names. Savannah Pierce Carter, I am not here as your neighbor, she said evenly. I'm here as mandated reporter for Fulton County. I have video of a non-resident adult entering your home at 11:48 p.m. June 6th and leaving 7:02 a.m. June 7th while your minor children were present. I also have today's sidewalk statements. You want to keep performing or you want to call a lawyer? Savannah blinked, thrown off script. You can't. Everything you're saying, Deja continued, is being mirrored to a cloud that doesn't care about your filters. Marcus exhaled a sound that might have been the first breath of a new life. He put his keys in my hand and said to Savannah, gently, finally, don't call me babe. Ray's SUV door cracked open like a temptation. Savannah glanced at it, then at me. Last offer, she said, voice low enough for the camera to catch every syllable. Give me the kids tonight. I'll keep your name out of it. My name is already in your receipts, I said. Blue stamp, Peachtree Branch. You left fingerprints on the bruise. Sirens didn't wail. They moaned, soft and close, the sound a city makes when it's about to take notes. Deja cocked her head. That'll be the patrol I pinged at 6:58. Savannah's phone buzzed in her palm. Ray, leave. Too many eyes. She didn't move. Inside, Eli pressed his nose to the glass. Nia held his hand. Micah stood behind them like a small, armed door. I kept my voice level. Marcus, you can walk them to bed now, or you can film your wife trying to steal Father's Day. He chose, at last. Kids, he called, and the screen door's spring sang the gentlest little hymn. Savannah pivoted, fury flattening her face. You think this is over? I will bury you in court. I have friends. Deja raised one eyebrow, unamused. Courts like evidence. Friends make noise. 2 patrol cars rolled to the curb without drama. This was not a raid. It was a record. Officer Nguyen glanced at Deja, then at me. Which of you called? Mandated reporter, verified, Deja said, raising her badge. Potential attempted custodial interference, emotional endangerment, ongoing fraud indicators. We recommend a civil standby if either party tries relocation tonight. Savannah's mouth twisted around a pretty word she couldn't weaponize. Standby? I'm their mother. Ma'am, Officer Nguyen said, calm as rain. Tonight you're a party in a dispute with documentation. Savannah swallowed, rage diluting into calculation. She backed toward the SUV, beeped it open without taking her eyes off me, and said, for her camera and for me, see you in church, Ruth. Bring your receipts, I said. The cars idled. The neighborhood exhaled. Deja squeezed my shoulder, a pressure point blessing. Tomorrow, we pull the last thread. What thread? Marcus asked from the doorway, voice small and awed. The one tied to that brass key, I said, touching my pocket. Unit D17. When we open that door, what exactly will fall out with Ray's name on it? By Monday morning, the house felt like a war room. Only our weapons clicked and stamped instead of fired. At 7:12 a.m., I brewed coffee strong enough to hold a spoon upright and opened a new binder, gray, 2-inch rings, clear front sleeve. On the spine, I slid a label in my neat school secretary script. Pierce Lang file. N1, Inconsistencies in Times, went first. A printout of Savannah's training posts with geotags from South Beach. A screenshot of the church program time-stamped June 23rd, 11:30 a.m. beside Ray's text. Phase 4 at Father's Day. Deja's ring cam stills with date and hour burned into the corner. N2, Documents, took the fattest sleeve. The blue stamped bank slip, $85,000. Cash, teller ID 6142, branch address on Peachtree, Marcus's 3 card statements, Meridian Gold $12,300, Harbor Line $9,800, Vaxa $10,800, charges clustered like bruises under Miami zips. I added a copy of my deed, assessed $218,000 with a sticky note, no new lines. The paper stack had its own gravity. N3, Images Testimony, held Deja's red drive, backed up twice. A letter she typed on clinic letterhead documenting dates she witnessed Uncle Ray present while minors were home. A screen grab of his necklace spelling his name like he wanted credit for the sin. N4, Master Proof. I left for last. Like the lemon glaze you pour only after the cake cools. The porch cam audio of Savannah rehearsing Phase 4 within earshot of my azaleas. I burned it to a clean thumb drive and wrote in block letters, Final, do not open until called. At 9:03 I dialed Attorney Martinez. He answered like men who've seen every mess a family can make. I summarized, clean and chronological. He interrupted once. You have that in her voice? And then I heard the shuffle of a calendar. I want emergency temporary custody for Marcus and a TRO barring relocation, he said. We'll need sworn statements. By noon, Marcus sat at my table with his palm flat on the laminate like he was swearing to the house. I slid him a pen. He wrote, slow at first, then like ink could absolve. He admitted what he'd signed, what he wouldn't sign, what he'd ignored to keep the peace. I did not say I'd taught him better. I initialed the bottom of each page as witness. At 2:27, Deja brought peach cobbler and 2 affidavits, hers and Sister Belinda's. Belinda swearing she saw Savannah pinch Nia during the photo while saying praise words out loud. God don't need props, Belinda said, and handed me a Tupperware. Micah hovered near the doorway. Grandma, is Mom going to jail? I sat him down with a glass of milk, and the truth scaled to fit. There are consequences, I said. Grown people get the ones they earn. By 4:40, Martinez texted a checklist. Credit freeze, fraud alerts, CPS intake with exhibit numbers. I ticked each box. The kindness clock on my counter kept time like a metronome. June 24th to June 28th. 4 squares left to color in. At 6:05, the bank's fraud desk called back. A woman named Terry confirmed multiple new device logins tied to a 305 number. We'll lock the profiles, she said. We'll also flag any attempt to use the Carter property address for collateral without owner present. I wrote Terry, ref, A9441 in my margin. After the kids' bedtime prayers, short, practical, the way children ask for what they actually need, Marcus and I spread the binder and the drives across the table. He touched the N4 thumb with his index finger like a man testing heat. You sure you want public? He asked. I want air, I said. Lies mold in the dark. He nodded, a small bow to the woman who raised him on checklists and cornbread. We packed the folder, slid it into my tote, and turned off the kitchen light. The porch cam caught a shadow pausing by my gate at 10:11 p.m., a cap, a jawline, a hesitation, before the street swallowed him and the night stored his footsteps like a debt coming due. If Ray is circling, what exactly is he still trying to protect inside D17? Tuesday. I didn't wait for courage to arrive. I set a place for it. Before sunup, I printed 3 sealed sets of everything. 1 for Martinez, 1 for the pastor's office safe, 1 for Deja's cloud, with a single note paper-clipped to each. If I am not reachable on June 28th at 12:30 p.m., open and proceed. At my age, peace is redundancy. At 8:22 a.m., I called the storage facility. The Braves cap manager recognized my voice by the second syllable. Ma'am, like I said, we can't disclose leaseholders. I'm not asking you to, I said. I'm asking if Unit D17 has a new lock. A pause. Paper shuffled. Changed yesterday, different cylinder. Thank you, I said, and wrote New Lock 624 in the margin. New lock meant new fear. Fear leaves haste. Haste leaves mistakes. By 9:10, Martinez texted, Ex-parte hearing scheduled Friday 10 a.m., Fulton County. Bring N4 audio. He added a sentence I read twice. Judge Hollis hates stunts. She loves chronology. I dressed my facts like Sunday clothes, orderly, pressed, modest. No adjectives, just dates. June 6th, Ray enters house. June 10th, $85K cash withdrawal. June 12th, kids dropped at 6:45 a.m., hidden phone discovered. June 23rd, Father's Day pinch plus sidewalk, phase 4. The story told itself, if you let it breathe. At noon, I called Pastor Harris. I asked for 10 minutes in his office on Thursday, 3:30 p.m. No spectacle, I said. Documentation, witness protection, and a secure place to keep a copy. You never asked for favors when it was about you, he said. I'll be here. I pressed my palm flat on the kitchen table and felt the nicks Richard carved by accident setting down a pot too hot. I remembered 2016's turkey in the trash. I pictured Nia's little flinch under Savannah's perfect nails. We are not doing that again, I told the wood and the ghost and the woman in my reflection. At 2:03, CPS intake called back. The worker, Ms. Flowers, a voice like a well-made bed, scheduled interviews with the children for Thursday 5 p.m. at my house. We prefer home environment to see baseline, she said. If mother arrives, call dispatch. Ask for civil standby. At 3:45, Deja came with manila folders and a kind of smile, I trust. I mapped Savannah's geotagged posts against Marcus's card swipes, she said, flipping open a chart she'd made in Excel with pride only church women and nurses have. Says seminar at 5:18 p.m., but here's a bill for 2 Negronis at 602 Ocean Drive. I printed the metadata. Bless your petty, I said, and meant it as prayer. We spent the evening building a quiet mousetrap. The big reveal wouldn't be a shout in the fellowship hall. Judge Hollis hated stunts, but a series of calm unveilings in rooms with carpet and pens. Still, the public breath was coming. The airing. The church wasn't a court, but it was a kind of city, and cities ought to know what lives in their houses. After the kids fell asleep, I took out the caramel tote. I set it on the table under the kitchen light, and for the first time, I felt sorry for it, how it had to carry another woman's schemes like a weary mule. I unzipped the hidden pocket and lifted the burner phone. The lock screen flashed, "No SIM." I tapped camera. It opened without asking who I was. Gallery, albums, Miami, sunrises, low tables with drinks that sweat in the heat, Ray's sneaker in the corner of one frame like a lazy signature. Then an album named Plans, PDFs photographed on the bedspread. Phase 1, secure cash. Phase 2, empty the house. Phase 3, provoke instability. Phase 4, emergency order. In the margins of one printout, a note in Savannah's round hand. Ruth, unpredictable, use that. I felt a smile I didn't recognize tug my mouth. At my age, I said to the quiet kitchen, predictable is a costume. I airdropped the files to my phone, then to the red drive, then to a drive I hadn't told anyone about, the little blue one inside my Bible cover. The Lord loves truth. He doesn't mind being a filing cabinet. At 10:28 p.m., Marcus texted from the hallway. Can't sleep. What if she shows up before Friday? I looked at the brass key in my palm, warm from my skin and from the idea of what door it wanted. Then we don't let her, I typed back. And if she does, we unlock D17 with the law beside us. I turned off the kitchen light and stood a moment in the doorway listening to the house. The fridge hummed. The clock ticked. Somewhere outside, a car idled, then moved on. I slid the blue drive into my Bible and the gray binder into my tote, set both by the front door like shoes for a long walk, and told the dark the same thing I told the day. When I open my mouth in that office on Friday, will Savannah finally hear her own voice telling on her? Thursday smelled like paper and pine cleaner. At 3:27 p.m., I sat in Pastor Harris's office with a gray binder on my lap and a blue thumb drive inside my Bible, the way other women tuck handkerchiefs. The blinds cut the afternoon into careful stripes. Pastor folded his hands. I want peace, he said, but not at the expense of truth. Savannah arrived at 3:34, soft beige dress, hard eyes. She brought the performance but left the crowd. Let's resolve this quietly, she said, and angled her chair to look taller. Pastor opened in prayer and then in boundaries. We are not a court. We will hear concerns, confirm what can be confirmed, and protect the children. He looked at the clock. 10 minutes. Then his phone hummed, a hospice call he couldn't ignore. Excuse me, he said. 2 minutes. The door clicked. It was just me and Savannah and the quiet. Her smile dropped like a curtain. Delete whatever you have, she whispered. I will make you the villain, Ruth. Senility, instability, I can plant phrases. People believe pretty women who cry. At my age, tears are for onions, I said. Not for theater. She leaned in, lashes a thicket. You think men like judges don't prefer me over you? You think Marcus won't fold if I pull the right thread? He already stopped calling you babe, I said. Threads break. Her gaze flicked to my tote, then the Bible. You always were dramatic, using church for props. You used Father's Day for Phase 4, I said softly. She blinked. You don't even know what that means. The porch camera does. I kept my voice low. And Ray's necklace spells his name in every frame. Ray is a business partner, she said too quickly. With a key to your back door? Her jaw tightened. You can't prove... I slid a single page from the binder. The blue stamped slip, $85,000. Cash, teller, Mir 6142, memo safe deposit, Lang, Branch Peachtree. You keep writing the same story, I said. I'm just reading it out loud. She laughed, brittle. Even if you had anything, you don't have me saying I planned it. This is America. Intent matters. I touched my Bible, thumb finding the little zipper where the blue drive slept. Intent left your lips on my sidewalk. She reached across the desk so fast, a paperclip leapt. Give me the phone, Ruth. You'll get the law. She sat back, recalculating. Fine, she said, voice smoothing out. Deal. You stop meddling. I reconsider Miami. We present united tomorrow. Marcus keeps the kids most weekends. You get to be seen at church again. No one thinks you're unwell. What about the cards in his name? I asked. The savings are located to nowhere? D17? She blinked again, faster. What is D17? A door I haven't opened yet. Then it's nothing. Then why are you scared of it? Her lips pressed thin. You don't know what you're up against. I do, I said. A woman who mistakes audacity for intelligence. She rolled her shoulders like she was shedding a skin. Tomorrow I will smile at the judge and say you are confused. I will say you coerced affidavits. I will say you staged a video. I will say you turned the children against me. A good outfit and a few tears, Ruth. And they'll give me grace while they give you warnings. Pastor's doorknob turned. I looked Savannah dead in the face. Then bring your mascara, I said. I brought dates. She stood, smooth as a snake. Last chance. I picked up my Bible. I'm not the one running. She brushed past me, perfume souring on the way out. In the hall, I heard her heel pause, then a whisper she thought the carpet would swallow. Text Ray, clean out the unit tonight. Why would she rush D17 if there was truly nothing inside? Friday, June 28th, 10 p.m., courtroom 5B. Fluorescence hummed. The American flag hung patient. A courtroom deputy checked belts and handbags with the cheerless choreography of a weekday. Judge Hollis entered like a woman who drank black coffee and loathed drama. Temporary custody, Carter vs. Carter, the clerk called. We rose. Marcus to my right, clean shave, clean shirt, clean intent. Savannah to the left, linen, gloss, weaponized gentleness. Ray did not appear. Cowards know daylight is across. Appearances, the judge intoned. Martinez for petitioner, Marcus Carter. Rowe for respondent, Savannah Pierce Carter. Hollis nodded. Motions? Martinez stood. Emergency temporary custody. TRO barring relocation. Surrender of children's passports. Prohibition on dissipation of marital assets. Exhibits N1 through N4. Rowe sighed to signal patience. We oppose. Husband's mother has been interfering, manufacturing crisis. My client is the primary caregiver. There are concerns about grandmother's stability. The judge's gaze clipped to me, then back. Concerns will require evidence, Ms. Rowe. Go ahead, Mr. Martinez. He didn't grandstand. He stacked. N1, inconsistencies and times. On the screen, Savannah's training selfies with South Beach geotags, church program time-stamped June 23rd, 11:30 a.m., a text bubble, Phase 4 at Father's Day. N2, documents. He handed up the blue-stamped bank slip, $85,000, cash, teller Javar 6142, Branch Peachtree, memo safe deposit, Lang. 3 card statements, $12,300, $9,800, $10,800 in Miami transactions. A copy of my deed, assessed $218,000, flagged no new lines. Rowe rose, smooth. Objection to foundation. Overruled for custody purposes, Hollis said. This is preliminary. I'll weigh. N3. Image. Testimony. Deja's doorbell footage blinked to life. June 6th, 11:48 p.m. Uncle Ray punching in a code, his cheap block-letter necklace grinning at the porch light. Deja's affidavit. Sister Belinda's statement about the pinch masked as praise. A low murmur traveled the benches like wind. Rowe tried for sugar. Your Honor, video can be edited. The public loves N4, Martinez said, without looking at her. He lifted the small blue drive like a sacrament. Master proof. Rowe's mask slid half an inch. Objection. Surprise. Noted, the judge said. Play it. The courtroom speakers gave us my own porch, the cicadas, the faint idle of an SUV, and Savannah's voice cutting through all of it like a pretty knife. Phase 4. Make Ruth look unwell, get kids on camera concerned, force Marcus to choose, file emergency order tonight. Judge duty dockets light on Sundays. Timing is everything, babe. Ray's laziness floated in. Get something about the old house being unsafe, mold, whatever. Did you get the cash? Savannah again. 85 grand's in the box. Monday we open the unit, ship to Miami. Marcus won't even know what he lost. Silence took the room by the throat. The judge's pen stopped moving. Rose stared at her client like the invoice had just doubled. Savannah made a sound I'd only heard when a fox realizes the hen house has a camera. Judge Hollis leaned forward. Ms. Pierce Carter, is that your voice? Savannah's eyes glossed. It's out of context. The context is you, Hollis said. Mr. Martinez, your requested relief is granted. Temporary sole physical custody to Mr. Carter. Exchange to be supervised. Respondent is enjoined from removing the children from Fulton County. Passports surrendered today. Respondent will not access marital savings without court approval. Roe tried one last trick. Your Honor, grandmother documented while you performed, Hollis said, and tapped the blue drive. One more item, D17. Martinez cleared his throat. Your Honor, we request a civil standby to open storage unit D17. We have reason to believe marital property is being concealed. Granted, the judge said. Sheriff's office will assist. Today. The gavel's small rap sounded like a hinge coming loose. We filed out into the corridor where the air was thinner and truths had nowhere to sit down. Marcus put his hand over his mouth and cried without sound, the kind of shaking that empties a man of shame and leaves room for breath. Savannah stepped close enough for me to smell panic under her perfume. You think you've won, she hissed. You have no idea what's in that unit. What exactly is waiting behind the roll-up door of D17 with Ray's name taped to it like a label on a stolen future? Fulton County deputies don't move fast. They move official. By 1:42 p.m., we were parked at the storage facility off Campbellton, heat wobbling over the asphalt, Unit D17, a dull gray promise at the end of the row. Deputy Coleman took down names, mine, Marcus's, Deja's as witness, and nodded to the manager with the Braves cap. We're here on a court order. The manager's hands shook just enough to tell me he had daughters. He led us down the corridor. The new brushed steel cylinder on D17 gleamed like a lie freshly polished. Coleman photographed the lock, the door, the hinges. Miss Carter, he said, you said you have a key? I pulled the brass thing from my pocket, the one stamped with our zip code and a unit code I'd memorized in my sleep. Coleman tried it. The cylinder gave like a secret. The door rolled up with the sound of a breath someone had held too long. Inside, cardboard towers, a garment rack under a drop cloth, a cheap safe the size of a microwave, 3 plastic bins labeled Marcus Tax, Keep, Kids Docs, Misc, Donate. On top of the safe, a florist's white box tied with black ribbon. Evidence has manners when you invite it properly. We didn't touch a thing until Coleman finished the photos. Then gloved hands, one box at a time. Marcus Tax. Keep was a joke that didn't land. Empty manila folders, the real files missing. A single sticky note in Savannah's looping cheerleader hand. House equity, sleeping money. Kids' docs made my knees soften. 3 passports, immunization cards, birth certificates, a notarized temporary relocation consent pre-filled with Marcus's name, signature line blank, but a notary seal sticker already peeled loose and waiting. I closed my eyes. You were going to steal these babies by paperwork, I whispered. Coleman photographed my hands not touching the edges. The florist box held a dress, linen, expensive, tags still on, for a victory Savannah had planned to wear. Under its tissue, an envelope thick with receipts, Ocean Drive, W South Beach, Aventura Mall, and a teller slip from the Peachtree branch stamped again, $85,000, cash with safe deposit, Lang. Marcus stared until his face went white around the mouth. She spent our house, he he said, the sentence heavier than grammar. The safe took longer. Coleman called it in. A second unit arrived with a pry bar that sang a low, mean song. The door popped. Inside, 2 burner phones, a leather folio with Ray's initials RAL, debossed like entitlement, a thumb drive labeled insurance, and like a bad joke, a sealed envelope addressed to Ruth Elaine Carter in Savannah's round hand. Coleman logged each item, then slid on new gloves for the drive. He handed it to me, then to Marcus. "Chain of custody," he said, writing the time. We moved to the facility office where a dusty desktop hummed awake. Deja stood behind the chair like a bodyguard. The drive opened to 5 files. Phase outline.pdf, mold report, template.docx, Marcus angry edit.mp4, Miami deed ray.pdf, plan B custody.docx. Coleman clicked Marcus angry edit. The video tried to make my son a monster with jump cuts and lifted audio from a toddler tantrum. Then, mid-splice, the program window flashed, Premiere Pro, project not saved. Whoever made it hadn't finished. Coleman exhaled through his teeth. That's enough for today. He burned a copy for evidence, then sealed the original back in an evidence bag with a sticker that said what the eyes of my neighbors have been saying for weeks. We see you. Back at the unit, I finally slit the envelope with my name on it. The handwriting looked like a girl's, round, hopeful. Inside, a single glossy photo of my house with red Sharpie circles around the gutters. A note in Savannah's voice without mascara. "Ruth, if you had just played nice, we could have all eaten. This city eats women like you." I let the paper lie like a snake finally identified. Coleman locked D17 with an evidence seal, red and loud. "No one in or out without my signature," he said. Marcus leaned against the warm metal like it could hold him up. At 4:06 p.m., Savannah's text hit Marcus's phone. "Bring the kids for goodbye dinner. We leave Sunday." Marcus handed the screen to Coleman, who typed without looking up. "No, ma'am," he said to the air between us. "Not without a supervisor and a clock." We drove back quiet. The city glowed summer harsh and honest. On my porch, I poured sweet tea I'd brewed for a celebration I hadn't known the shape of. Marcus lifted his glass with both hands. "I thought justice would taste like fire," he said. "It tastes like paper and breath." I looked at the brass key on my table, the blue drive in my Bible, the red seal on D17 under a late sun, and felt something unclench in the place where old women store storms. What exactly did Miami deed ray.pdf hide about the money that still hasn't come home? Saturday dawned clean as the inside of a new jar. The children woke up hungry and light. Eli asked for pancakes without bargaining for Wi-Fi. Nia set the table without flinching. Micah took out the trash and didn't slam the lid like anger was a personality. We were a house with edges again. At 9:10 a.m., Attorney Martinez called from his office where the coffee never cooled. "We reviewed Miami deed ray PDF," he said, voice brisk with relief. "Property purchased in Raymond Allen Lang's name, funds traced to the joint savings account. Marcus can claw back half. The rest becomes leverage in the divorce. We'll file a Ellie's pendens in Miami-Dade Monday. Also, the TRO is extended 2 weeks pending full hearing." "Passports?" I asked. "Turned in," he said. "Sheriff confirmed, and Ms. Pierce Carter's counsel has agreed no out-of-county travel with the minors." At 11:30, Ms. Flowers from CPS knocked. Neutral cardigan, notebook, the patience of women who look for bruises in the silences between sentences. She sat at the table and let the house talk. Dish towels drying on the chair backs, chore chart written in Micah's careful block letters, Eli's stick figure drawing of a porch with a little black square, our camera, like a guardian. Ms. Flowers spoke with each child. Nia told her about the pinch under the roses. Micah said, "Mom tells jokes with knives." Eli said, "At Grandma's, I sleep. My tummy doesn't yell." Ms. Flowers wrote in straight lines. When she looked at me, I didn't perform. "I'm 62, I said. "I keep receipts." She smiled like someone tasting familiar cake. "I see that." At 2:00 p.m., Pastor Harris stopped by. He took the blue drive for the church safe, prayed a short prayer with verbs in it: protect, expose, heal, and left with 2 slices of peach cobbler and the promise that if gossip came, he'd feed it truth or starve it. By late afternoon, the house was quiet enough to hear the drip of the bird bath. Marcus sat on the step and opened the envelope from his attorney, the temporary custody order in black ink and courthouse font. He read it like gospel. "Sole physical custody to Marcus Carter," he said, tasting each word. "Supervised visitation for Savannah. No relocation." He exhaled a decade. We didn't gloat. We did laundry. We labeled school folders for summer program starts. We froze 2 trays of lasagna for future nights when bravery is busy elsewhere. New rules clicked into place like pegs on a board. 1. Phones docked at 8 p.m. 2. Church is for worship, not for photos. 3. We say sorry without a but. 4. Money gets names: rent, light, food, future. I taped the list to the fridge next to the kindness clock, which I turned to off with a fingernail. Time for once was not a threat. At 6:15 p.m., Savannah's attorney texted Martinez. "Client requests Sunday, 2 p.m. supervised visit at neutral site." Martinez forwarded it to us with a time and a location: Family Visitation Center, East Point, 2 rooms with 2-way mirrors and a basket of Legos that have heard every story. Marcus nodded. "I'll go," he said. "Kids too if they want." "Choice is part of healing," I said. That evening, the doorbell chimed. For a second, my old body remembered storms. But it was Deja, holding a shoebox and a grin. "I figured you might like this back," she said. Inside, a fresh router, my old one had retired during the siege, and a stack of glossy prints in protective sleeves. June 6th, June 12th, June 23rd. Moments fixed, so no mouth could edit them. We ate cobbler warm. The children practiced their small brave. Micah typed a message to a friend. "Can't come over. Family stuff. I'm okay." Nia wrote a new entry in her pink journal. 3 hearts and the word safe. Eli fell asleep on my lap, sugar and sweat at his hairline, the weight of a boy who finally trusted gravity. After bedtime, I sat alone with the envelope Savannah had left for me in D17, the one with the photograph of my gutters circled in red. I stared at it a long time and felt something surprising: pity, clean and cold. For a moment I saw a little girl drawing circles around a house and saying, "Mine, mine, mine," because no one had taught her the word ours. I slid the photo into the back of the gray binder and wrote a final label, neat as a ledger's last line: "Closed, June 29th. Then I washed my face, set my Bible by the lamp, and listened to the house breathe. Sunday would bring supervised chairs and observation glass and a woman trying to be gentle into a room that measures gentleness. We would answer the questions we could and leave the ones we couldn't in ink for the next hearing. We would eat after church, even if there were no photos and no one clapped for our plates. We would be a family without an audience. A text buzzed. Unknown number. We need to talk about the box. RAL. What exactly did Ray think was still his inside a life we'd already put back in our own hands? 3 Sundays later, the Family Visitation Center smelled like crayons and lemon cleaner. The clock on the wall said 2:03 p.m. The 2-way glass held its breath. Savannah arrived with a cardigan the color of milk and a voice soft enough to make kittens suspicious. A staffer sat between her and the children, clipboard poised like a seatbelt. Marcus signed the log. No flourish, just father. "Hi, baby," Savannah cooed to Nia, reaching, then stopping when the staffer raised a palm. Rules are a new grammar. Some people never learn to conjugate them. Nia tucked a curl behind her ear. "No pinching today," she said, a child's sentence that tipped furniture. Eli slid the basket of Legos toward his mother without looking up. Micah asked what Miami was like in the rain. Savannah blinked, performed regret, and for 55 measured minutes tried to borrow a tenderness she hadn't saved. When time was called, no one argued with the clock. Mercy wears a uniform in those rooms. By the end of that week, Judge Hollis signed the orders we'd earned. Temporary custody to Marcus continued, passports in the court safe, Ellis pendants filed in Miami-Dade, the joint savings frozen pending division. D17 stayed under seal. The inventory photographed, each item logged like a chapter title in a book we finally owned. Miami Deed Raid PDF traveled from Martinez's desk to a clerk's docket. A neat stamp turned our ache into a record. At church, the backdrop and silk roses went back to the rental truck. Pastor Harris preached a short sermon with verbs in it: repair, restore, repent, and then invited the ushers to pass out school supply lists. No one asked for a photo. Sister Belinda hugged Nia with both hands visible. Deja refilled the urns and winked at the camera like it was a neighbor. At home, we did ordinary brave. The chore chart turned into habit. Phones docked at 8:12 p.m. stopped being a fight and started being a fact. Micah took lawn jobs up the block. Cash in a jar labeled future. Nia baked cornbread until the crust learned her name. Eli discovered worms under my collards and announced each one like a guest. Marcus took a second shift at Dignity. A men's group on Wednesdays. A counseling appointment on Fridays. A budget in a notebook with corners already dog-eared. My house stayed mine. Assessed $218,000. Priceless in a currency banks don't count. The brass key, now harmless, lives on a nail over the washer as a souvenir from a war we didn't start and still refuse to lose. The gray binder sits on the top shelf, spine labeled closed. June 29th. The little blue drive sleeps inside my Bible, tucked between Psalms and Proverbs, two neighborhoods where names matter. Sometimes, when the porch light clicks on at dusk, I pour sweet tea and remember the girl I once was, the one who would have swallowed the lie to save the night. I let her sit beside me long enough to see who I became. We listened to the house breathe and to the world go on. Tires on Campbellton, a mourning dove calling the same two notes, Deja's laughter crossing the fence. Peace doesn't sound like silence. It sounds like nothing left to hide. Savannah texts sometimes through her lawyer, requests written in fonts that try to be kind. She is supervised, observed, recorded. Consequences are not vengeance. They are the road home for people who choose to walk it. Maybe one day she will. I learned something standing under fluorescent lights and in fellowship halls and on my own hot porch. Love without boundaries is a leak. You mop the same puddle until the floor gives way. Tonight, I box up 3 small sets of school supplies: pencils, notebooks, a ruler, a glue stick. I write names on each with the slow pride of a woman who pays attention: Micah, Nia, Eli, and tuck a note under each lid. I see you. Keep going. I tape them shut. The tape squeals like a little trumpet. The kindness clock on my counter is turned to off and will stay there until someone worthy winds it. If you're listening for a secret, here is mine. At my age, I don't shout. I document. I don't beg. I build. I don't ask permission to keep my peace. I keep receipts, and I keep myself. If this story gave you strength, help us by sharing, liking, and hitting the notification bell. We'd love to hear in the comments which part of the story you liked most. See you tomorrow.